This is the Lamborghini Urus, the world's first super SUV. But since it came out in 2017, its rivals have started to move the game forward. It's no longer the most powerful, it's no longer the fastest. And that raises a couple of important questions. Is it beginning to lose its shine? Is it still relevant? And in 2021, is it still worth £170,000? Absolutely, because the Urus is outstandingly powerful and incredibly quick. It uses a 4-litre bi-turbo engine that makes a pretty astonishing 650 metric horsepower. That means it'll do 0 to 62 in 3.6 seconds, supercar territory, and flat out, it'll hit 189.5 miles an hour. You know what? I'm feeling generous. I'm gonna round it up. Flat out, it'll do 190 miles an hour. It sounds glorious as well. Whack it from Strada and into sport mode, and that exhaust just wakes up. Listen to that. Absolutely tremendous. Lambos always sound good. Most of their sports cars will use either a V12 or a V10. This doesn't. It's a turbocharged V8, and you might expect it not to sound very good, but not a bit of it. This car, it's one of the best sounding cars on the road today. Believe me on that. Sounds like a Range Rover Sport on crack. Just sounds like Armageddon, like gunshots. Listen, the EU are meant to have restrictions on the amount of noise that a car can make, but Lamborghini and Akrapovic, who make the exhaust, I'm pretty sure they didn't get that memo.
So the Urus is a special car, and it makes a special noise with power that lets you conquer any road. But with its big ground clearance and all-wheel drive, this super SUV can also conquer an entirely different landscape.
You thought I was gonna say off-road, didn't you? Nah, don't be silly, come on. No one's stupid enough to take their £170,000 Urus off-road. They'll get dirty, but they will take their £170,000 Urus through places like this: high streets, towns, cities, the burbs. Of course, you can still take a Hurricane or an Aventador through places like this. I've done it, but believe me, the likelihood of it getting keyed or nicked is extremely high, and at the end of it all, you're gonna end up with backache. What I love about the Urus is that not only is it quick, but it's also comfortable. You put it back into Strada mode and it's chilled out, it's soft. The suspension, air suspension, as standard by the way, is just lovely. It cruises over bumps like they weren't even there. On top of that, it's got 5 seats, so you can take 4 of your friends along for the ride. You can do the school run, you can pop to your local coffee shop, your local Nisa, your fish and chip shop. Ordinary stuff that supercars would struggle with. It's also really quiet. Remember that noise that I mentioned earlier on? Can't really hear it in here. Everything is so cocooned and insulated. And also, you got great infotainment. It's like an Audi. Even smells like an Audi.
And that's the thing with the Urus. It delivers Audi smell, Audi comfort, and Audi usability. So you might be justified in asking why we're only getting Audi level benefits when we're paying Lamborghini money.
This is a tin of beans, and this is a tin of beans. This tin of beans cost 22 pence, while this tin of beans costs 85 pence. Why the difference in price? Well, I can tell you that they're both grown in the same soil, probably from the same bean farm, and they even come in very similar packaging. And yet this tin of beans is 4 times the price of this tin of beans. Why is that? Well, it's a similar story for the Lamborghini Urus. I mean, it's based on an Audi Q7, but if you look at the Auto Trader app, what you'll see is that this car costs around £52,000, whereas this car, the minimum you're gonna pay is around £190,000. So for that kind of money, you've really got to ask yourself what you're getting for your cash. The simple answer is that a lot of what you're paying for is just branding.
The Urus and the Q7 sit on the same Audi Group MLB platform. They use almost the same infotainment system, just with different fonts. They use the same mirrors, the same buttons, and in the case of the top spec RS Q8, even the same engine, albeit with the Audi having about 50 horsepower less. However, the cars do look very different. The 2021 Urus is available in a standard model, that's this one, as well as a Pearl capsule, which comes in a range of bright colors like orange and green, or Graphite capsule, which gives you matte paint options and a two-tone interior. Speaking of which, that interior has a host of very Lamborghini bits of theatre that only Lamborghini can really pull off.
The thing that really stands out for me are these amazing switches on the center console, which let you choose your drive mode and reverse gear. They look like something out of an alien spaceship. And then the start button has a little flappy switch to it. That looks like something out of a fighter jet. And because this is a Lambo, it has to have some weird quirks that make you question whether the designers hate the end user. For example, look at the Anima switch. This lets you choose your drive mode, and I get what Strada, Sport and Corsa are. I think that's Road, Sport and Track. But what's Sabia, Terra and Neve? I mean, I could probably find out if I looked in the manual, and I'm guessing it's something to do with off-roading, but I mean, you're going to get confused between Sabia and Neve at one point or another, aren't you? Surely. And then there's how you engage reverse gear. This huge, big, clunky switch to go backwards. How do you go forward? You have to pull the paddle on the right of the steering wheel. That's fine. That's how you engage first gear in a normal supercar. But this isn't a normal supercar. So the paddles aren't mounted to the steering column. They're mounted to the steering wheel. And that means it turns. So when you're trying to do a 3-point turn and you go in reverse, that's all right. But then first gear suddenly might move from the right-hand side to the left-hand side, to the top or the bottom, depending on where the steering wheel happens to be at any given moment. It's Lamborghini madness. And again, I love it.
I also love the fact that despite it claiming to be a slightly more sensible Lambo for everyday use, it still does what every modern Lamborghini does best, going from zero to whatever, violently.
All right, I'm gonna do a launch control. Corsa, ESC off, foot on the brake, mash the pedal, lift, set. Oh. That is like falling off a building while being kicked by a horse. That is unbelievable for an SUV. Tremendous. There's a lot of fast SUVs out there, but one of the reasons that the Urus is so entertaining, I think, is down to that gearbox. This thing gives you the advantage of being able to feel truly violent, truly engaging upshifts. And yeah, I get it. There are people out there who don't appreciate that sudden spike in torque you get whenever you shift up, but I love it. That is one of the reasons that supercars feel so engaging. That's one of the things that makes the Urus so engaging. I'm going to talk about the power some more. I know I've mentioned it already, but honestly, power is one of the things that makes this car so appealing. I also know that there are other cars out there that have surpassed this. There's a Lister Stealth that now makes 666 horsepower. There's a Cayenne Turbo SE Hybrid that now makes 680. The Jeep Trackhawk makes 717 metric horsepower. But honestly, there hasn't been a minute in this Urus where I've felt that the 650 on offer isn't enough. It's got power for days and it puts it down like you wouldn't believe. Okay, handling. It should fall down here, but it doesn't. This car weighs 2,200 kilograms. Physics go completely against it, but Lamborghini have beaten physics to death with the use of technology. They've applied every single trick in the book, courtesy of Audi, and thrown it into the Urus, and they've made it handle. One of the weapons in this car's arsenal is all-wheel steering, so it can turn the rear wheels in the opposite direction to the front wheels by up to 3 degrees at low speeds to help the car rotate. At higher speeds, it turns the rear wheels in the same direction as the front wheels to maintain stability. Then there's the steering. It's fast, it's precise, not much feedback, but you know exactly what the front end of the car is doing at all times. It also uses torque vectoring by braking, so it can brake the inside wheels as you go around a corner, just to help the car get rotated, and you can really feel it working. Plus it has a proper active rear diff. Honestly, the Urus is massively impressive on the road. It's scary to think what it could do on a track. I reckon it could actually be quicker than a lot of supercars.
The brakes are stunningly effective too. Behind those 23-inch wheels, the Urus uses the biggest brake discs on any production car. 440mm carbon ceramic discs with 10-pot calipers at the front and 370mm ceramics with 6-pot calipers at the rear. Tyre options include P0 Corsa for the track, or Pirelli P0s fitted here, delivering grip and traction that feels more than up to the task of keeping the Urus shiny side up.
I dread to think what the Urus looks like from the outside. It probably looks like a high-speed house, but inside, it feels like a sports car. It's like if a sumo wrestler entered the Olympic 100-meter sprint and won. It doesn't make any sense. This car just blows my mind. To answer the original question of whether the Lamborghini Urus is losing its shine, whether it's still relevant in 2021, and whether it's still worth £170,000, I mean, to me, the answer is pretty obvious. The Urus was the original super SUV, and to this day, I still think it's the best.
Rivals will come and rivals will go, but I'm not sure that there are any that are more effective when it comes to mixing speed with comfort or theatrical design with everyday usability. And that's why, for me, the Urus is still the greatest in its class. It's still the ultimate super SUV.